Chapter 17. Goodbye to Jim Davis. The moon shone yellow and bright, casting long shadows over the graveyard. A few feet above the coffin, a horse whinnied and stomped the ground. An old man picked up a shovel and began to dig. From inside the coffin, Danny heard a loud scratching sound. A shovel scraped across the wooden lid of the coffin. He held his breath and waited. The lid of the coffin flew open, and there stood his friend Jim Davis. "Sorry it took me so long, Danny, but I couldn't find a pony," Davis said. Danny Blackgoat couldn't think of a word to say, but he didn't have to talk. His face reflected the bright yellow moon. He closed his eyes and a grin crept across his face. "Please tell me you are not a dream, Jim Davis," he said. "No, Danny, I am not a dream," Davis said. "Oh, how did you like my surprise?" "What surprise?" asked Danny. "My leather vest," said Davis. "The one from your grandfather. I put it on Mr. Dime so you wouldn't be afraid." "You put your vest on Mr. Dime?" Danny asked. He slowly turned and cast his eyes on the body. Mr. Dime lay stretched out in the coffin, looking more peaceful in death than ever during his life. "I'll tell you what happened someday," Davis said, "but no time for that now." He stepped back and gripped the reins of a pony. "It's not as big and strong as I had hoped for, but this young pony is like you, Danny Blackgoat. He's quick and he's smart. You two will get along fine." "What's his name?" Danny asked. "Well," said Davis with a sly grin on his face, "I've been feeding him for about a month now, and I gave him a new name. He's already answering to it. I call your pony Fire Eye. How do you like it?" "I like it," Danny said. "Thank you, Jim Davis. You are a good friend. Hey. We better get you out of here, Danny, before they catch on to us. Here's the plan. Follow the road to Fort Sumner, the one Rick brought you here on. Understand?" "I understand," Danny said. "Good," said Davis. "Ride as far from the fort as you can today. I don't know if they'll send any soldiers after you or not. More likely they'll say let him die and be done with it." Danny hung his head. "Hey, Danny, that's a good thing. They'll leave you alone. Now, about your pony. Fire Eye's already been fed. Ride him fast, but let him rest when he's breathing hard. Around noon you should come across a spring of water. Let him drink, but keep a real close eye out. Everybody that takes the road drinks at the spring." "Why?" Danny asked. He was scrambling for the words. Fort Sumner. Why? "Danny, you're not going to Fort Sumner. Listen real close. After the spring, ride for another half day. The hills are thick with cedar trees. Hide in the trees till you see Rick on the road. Make sure nobody is following him." "Does he know?" Danny asked. "Yes, he's in on our plan." "Good," said Danny. His eyes took on a new glow and Davis smiled. "No, Danny, his wife and daughter will not be with him, but you will see them again, I promise you that." Danny looked away embarrassed. "Rick will lead you to another road, a road going north. After that you'll be on your own. Rick says you should ride to the canyons. Many Navajos are hidden out there, he says, and they'll take you in." "I understand, Jim Davis." Davis lifted Danny and placed him on the back of Fire Eye. "There's food in the saddlebag, Danny. Dried beef, a gift from Rick." Davis reached for the hand of Danny Blackgoat. "I'm gonna miss you, son. I don't know what I'll do with nobody to take care of me," he said. "You took care of me, Jim Davis. You kept me alive." "I guess without each other we'd both be buried in this graveyard," Davis replied. "When all this mess is over with and you learn to write, send me a letter, Danny." "I will learn to write, Jim Davis. To make you proud, I will learn to write." "You best be on your way, son," said Davis. "Take care of your pony and you'll be fine." He slapped Fire Eye on the rump. "Giddy up," he shouted. Fire Eye stomped the ground. Danny held the reins tight and turned his pony north to Navajo country. "Goodbye, Jim Davis," he said over his shoulder. "Goodbye, Danny Blackgoat," said Davis. He watched as Danny leaned forward, urging Fire Eye into a gallop. He wiped fat tears from his eyes. "I hope you don't know how much your life is in danger," Davis whispered to himself. As the sun rose over the desert, Danny pulled Fire Eye to a stop. "I'll be safe at Canyon de Chelly," he thought, "but what about my family?" He sprinkled corn pollen on the rising sun as he said his morning prayer.